بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه الأنصار اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our studies of Aqaid based on Islamic belief system, and inshallah this will be our last session on Unit 5. So I will try to finish, if possible, this unit today. We have been studying some aspects of the main miracle of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that was the Quran. What we want to talk about it today is to finish the discussion about the Quran by talking about what are the etiquettes and manners of recitation of the Quran. And then we have the issue of seal of the prophethood, and then the issue of successorship. So we have to be quick. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Baqarah verse 121 says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يتلونه حق تلاوته أولئك يؤمنون به ومن يكفر به فأولئك هم الخاسرون. Any community, any nation who has been given a book by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are expected to recite it in the way which is, according to this ayah, described as haqqa tilawatihi. Recitation can be sometimes just reading and even maybe a little bit enjoying, a little bit being, for example, impressed. But if you read the Quran as you read a manual for life, as you read an instruction that you want to implement word by word, if you read as a message coming from God the Almighty for us, that we should wholeheartedly follow, this recitation is a measure of Iman. So Allah says, those whom that we gave them the book and they recite it right way of recitation, these are the people who believe in the book, and those who reject, they are going to be the losers, because they have deprived themselves from a great source of blessing. Inshallah, in the discussion about the Quran, the second subject that we will have some discussions about these things. But here, what we have in the book is a quick review of some of the manners that we have to observe when we recite the Quran, so that inshallah, if we observe them all together, we can say that we have tried to have haqqut tilawah, the proper and right way of recitation. There are, as you know, some physical, ritual manners. So, for example, we should be clean, we should have tahara, we should have wuzu, we should try to face qibla. These are very important, but these are still not enough, because someone may have wuzu, may face qibla, may sit on prayer mat in a beautiful setting, but still it can be just the surface. Another thing which is important is when you recite, you have to recite carefully and slowly. With rushing, you cannot get anywhere. Sometimes, of course, maybe you have made a decision that, for example, in this night I want to recite this much, or I want to finish this surah, it's okay. But generally, the focus should not be on finishing the surah, the focus should be on benefiting from the surah. So the Quran says, وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا, chapter 73, verse 4, and tartil has been defined as حفظ الوقوف وأداء الحروف, but it can be even more than that. So at least is that you pronounce everything properly, you stop where you're supposed to stop, you continue where you're supposed to continue and connect. But the main thing is with appropriate pace. You should never be rushing in reading the Quran. Many times I think rushing is a sign of not giving enough respect. You know, if I am reading someone's letter, you know, and I rush, if I read a book and I rush, it means that I am not listening with respect. Another thing is to recite the Quran with beautiful voice as much as possible. There are two types of beauty. Some people, there is a beauty in their tone. This is not what we can change. Some people, their tone is beautiful. But there is a beauty that we can learn by learning tajweed, by learning how to recite. We can, maybe we don't become, an international reciter of the Quran, but at least we can recite the Quran beautifully. But I also have to tell you, and I think I told you once, that at the same time that you try to recite beautifully, you should not impose your recitation on other people. Yeah, because we may like our own way of recitation, but it may not be felt by other people the same way. So when it's a public place, we should be careful not to annoy other people by our recitation. There is a hadith from Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, أحسنوا تلاوته فإنه أنفع القصص. Make the recitation of the Quran beautiful. Recite the Quran beautifully, because this is the most beneficial of stories. Quran is أحسن القصص, the best and most beautiful of the stories, so it deserves beauty. Also, we have this hadith, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which says, لكل شيء حلية وحلية القرآن الصوت الحسن. Everything has a kind of adornment, a kind of way of beautifying, and for the Quran is the beautiful voice. Then we move on to things which are more spiritual. One more manner, because so far to have wuzu, to recite with a slow pace, with careful recitation, with beautiful voice, still there are people who do this, and sometimes they do it professionally, but still maybe they are not that much touched by the Quran. We have reciters of the Quran that maybe they are farther away from the Quran than some other people. رُبَّ تَالِ الْقُرْآنِ وَالْقُرْآنِ يَلْعَنُهُ. There are reciters of the Quran that the Quran may curse them. So, these are not enough, but we should have them. Something which is very important is to find a time and setting that you can be alone with the Quran and make a very close relationship with the Quran. There is no replacement for night when it comes to this. Maybe during the day you can have this, but certainly in the night. Because night is the time for great spiritual experiences. Most of the spiritual experiences happen during the night, when you are less involved in the physical world and less engaged with the physical activities. Your soul has more chance. So Amirul Mu'minin Salam in Sermon of Muttaqin, the pious, says that Muttaqin are found in this condition with respect to the Quran. أما الليل فالصافون أقدامهم تالين لأجزاء القرآن يرتلونه ترتيلا. In the night, you find them, they stand while they are reciting the Quran. For example, in their tahajjud, they are reciting the Quran. It can be also outside tahajjud. But they recite different parts, ajza al-Quran, and they do it with tartil, yurattilunahu tartila. And then Amirul Mu'minin says something else. يُحَزِّنُونَ بِهِ أَنفُسَهُم. They make themselves sad. They sadden themselves with the Quran. What does it mean? Does it mean that you should not enjoy reciting the Quran? You should not be happy reciting the Quran? What type of huzn is this? This huzn, in my humble understanding, means a matter of seriousness. When we know that we have lots of problems and lots of requests, we cannot just be laughing. Can you go to a doctor when you have some pain and some illness, or you want to get a prescription for someone else who is ill? Can you go and laugh? Or there should be a kind of seriousness, and the closest thing to seriousness is sadness. It's a kind of seriousness of a person in his or her emotions. You should show in your emotions that you really want, you are really in need of help. So يُحَزِّنُونَ بِهِ أَنفُسَهُم. When they recite the Quran, they make themselves sad with the Quran in this sense that I explained. يَسْتَثِيرُونَ بِهِ دَوَاءَ دَاءِهِمْ. They try to take from the Quran medicine for their illnesses. So whenever you go to the Quran, it's like going to a pharmacy, but not a dunya or worldly pharmacy. It's where there are spiritual medicines, spiritual treatments that can help us. Of course, I believe the Quran can even help us with physical illness, but it's not for everyone to experience it. But if we really wholeheartedly follow the Quran, it helps us with having also better, healthy and physical life. So, to recite the Quran in the night with careful and serious and some sense of sadness is very important. Another thing is to reflect and ponder. Quran says, كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ إِلَيْكَ مُبَارَكٌ لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِ. The book that we send down to you, which is blessed, so that they ponder, they reflect. Tadabbur. Tadabbur means to reflect on something. To see something completely from different angles, especially the way it leads to see end of the things. This is called tadabbur. So, Quran is to be reflected on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجَلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. The believers are those that when Allah is mentioned, their hearts tremble, their hearts are moved, shaken. وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. And when the verses of the Quran are recited, their iman would increase, or it would increase their iman, and they put their trust in their Lord. Those who are real mu'min and true lovers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when the name of Allah is mentioned, their condition changes. I don't forget that once in Medina, in Masjid al-Nabi, I saw a Muslim from one country that was listening to something that I could not, of course, hear. Maybe it was Quran, maybe it was Zikr, I don't know. But I could see that every maybe half minute or minute, he was moved. And without me hearing, I could guess that he was listening to something that then when it comes to the name of Allah, he was moved. Without hearing, I could sense. It remained in my mind. It's like when you connect a wire of electricity to someone. It was really moved. So those who really love Allah, the name of Allah when it's mentioned, they become somehow speechless. They cannot have control over themselves. So وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Inshallah, in the course, the second course, if we get chance, we will talk about how to ponder on the Quran and how to relate to the Quran more. This is as much as in the discussion about aqa'id is mentioned. So, we move on to the next issue in this unit, which is Khatmun Nubuwwah. The Quran says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Khatamun Nabiyyin. ما كان محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أبا أحد من رجالكم. He was not a father of any of your men, because the Prophet didn't have any son. ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين. He is the messenger of God and خاتم النبيين, and the last prophet. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمًا. And Allah is aware of everything. Rasulullah is Nabi and Rasul, because as you remember we said, it's not that every Nabi is Rasul. So every Rasul is Nabi, but not every Nabi is Rasul. But Rasulullah is both Nabi and Rasul. And Rasulullah is also the last Nabi, therefore he is the last Rasul. Yes? Because every Rasul is Nabi. So if someone is the last Nabi, he would be also the last Rasul. Therefore, it says Rasul is Rasulullah wa khataman nabiyyin. He is the messenger of God and the last prophet. Therefore, he is also Khatamul Rusul, or Khatamul Mursaleen, or Khatmul Mursaleen, whatever you say. So he is the very last prophet. He is the last person who received revelation from God. Why it is called Khatam? It's based on this ayah, because this ayah says khatam. In Arabic, those who are familiar with Arabic grammar, they know that we have khatim and we have khatam. Khatim is ismul fa'il, means the agent, the doer. Khatim is what puts an end to something. What ends is khatim. But khatam is ma yukhtamu bih. Something by which you finish, that is khatam. So the one who finishes is khatim. The one by which you finish is khatam. In Arabic culture, they used to put a seal, also maybe in other cultures, they used to put a seal at the end of their writings. So they had normally on a ring, as because they wanted to have it with them, so it's not lost, it's not misused by anyone. So on the ring, they had a motto or name, something which was exclusive. So they knew that this belongs to this person. And whenever the letter finishes, they put the seal. This seal had two benefits. One was to show who is the writer. Second, nothing could be added afterwards. So when the seal is put there, they cannot do anything with it. Okay? So, that is called khatam. And because it was used normally as a ring, so some people think khatam means ring, but khatam doesn't mean ring. Khatam means the seal which is put at the end of the letter. So, Rasulullah, according to this ayah, is the seal of the prophethood. Means after him, there would be no prophet, and certainly no messenger, because any messenger has to be a prophet. In addition to this ayah, there are hadiths about this, but a very famous hadith which is narrated by Sunni Shia is hadith of Manzala. When Rasulullah wanted to go for battle, I think was the Battle of Tabuk, he organized the army and didn't take Amirul Mu'mineen with him. Amirul Mu'mineen was sad that he is not able to be with the Prophet, to defend him, to defend Islam and have the reward of jihad. So asked, are you leaving me with children and women inside the town? And Rasulullah said, أَمَا تَرْضَى أَن تَكُونَ مِنِّي بِمَنْزِلَةِ هَارُونَ مِنْ مُوسَى إِلَّا أَنَّهُ لَا نَبِيَّ بَعْدِي. Aren't you happy to be for me the way that Harun was for Moses? But there is no prophet after me. Because Harun was a prophet. Although Harun didn't live after Musa. He died when Musa was still alive. But because he was a prophet and Rasulullah wanted to leave no ambiguity that no one is after him to be a prophet, so he said, أَنَّهُ لَا نَبِيَّ بَعْدِي. There is no prophet after me. And when Musa alayhi salam went to receive alwah, the tablets, he made Harun his khalifa, his successor, not successor, deputy, like someone to replace him while he's away. وَوَاعَدْنَا مُوسَى 30 لَيْلَةً وَأَتْمَمْنَاهَا بِعَشْرٍ فَتَمَّ مِيقَاتُ رَبِّهِ 40 لَيْلَةً وَقَالَ مُوسَى لِأَخِيهِ هَارُونَ أُخْلُفْنِي فِي قَوْمِي. Means to be my khalifa with my people. وَأَصْلِحْ وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. So, this famous hadith of Manzala, which is a hadith that shows the great position that Amirul Mu'mineen salam had. He was the closest person to Rasulullah, and he was the one that was going to be his Khalifa. At the same time is a good evidence for Khatmun Nubuwwah. So whoever is a Muslim has to accept Khatmun Nubuwwah. There were people who tried to play around, these texts. For example, they said we are Muslim, but there is a still chance of a prophet coming, because Khatam means zina. Rasulullah was the zina, was beauty of the prophets, not the last one. Or there was a lady who said, I am a prophet. They said, but Rasulullah said there is no prophet. And he said, the Rasulullah said, La nabiyya ba'di. He didn't say, La nabiyyata ba'di. I am nabiyya, I am a prophetess. So, they sometimes tried, but no person of knowledge took them seriously, because it's very well established that this is the final message, and the Prophet clearly said there will be no prophet after him. And as we know, حلال محمد حلال إلى يوم القيامة وحرام محمد حرام إلى يوم القيامة. Now, there is a question. Some people may say, what has happened that God has changed his policy? Why he kept sending prophets and messengers, and now he decided not to send any prophet and messenger? The answer is, God has not changed his policy. His policy had different stages. So from the beginning he had clear policy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always provided humanity with guidance. Okay? There is no way that Allah leaves humanity without guidance. رَبُّنَا الَّذِي أَعْطَى كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلْقَهُ ثُمَّ هَدَى. He sent messengers and prophets to all different nations. لَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنْ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. The problem was that these messages were not preserved. So sometimes the books disappeared. Sometimes they were distorted. Sometimes there was no possibility of communication. Allah had to send at the same time different prophets, different messengers to different places. But the plan was that by the growth and development of humanity in their understanding and in their ability to preserve the message, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then would give them his final message, and after that there would be no need for sending new book, but guidance will continue through providing them with infallible teachers. So, when the Quran was revealed, humanity has made lots of progress, and one particular progress was that they were very appreciative of this text. They preserved the text. There were hundreds of Muslims who memorized the Quran, in addition to the people who were commissioned by the Prophet to write down the Quran. This is very important, because in that culture, writing was not something important. Writing was like maybe something luxury. Only few people were able to read and write. It was not taken as a necessity of life. Even it was not taken as, a skill with which you can make some money. So even for business, people were not writing. In that culture, in which writing and registering was not something which was considered to be important, right from the beginning, Rasulullah was very much emphasizing on memorizing and writing the Quran, and the Quran itself swears by qalam. Can you imagine? If we today says, Noon wal qalam wa ma yasturun. Okay, we say this is the age of knowledge, this age of writing, information, books. But in that society, Allah says, Noon wal qalam wa ma yasturun. So that was the age of humanity appreciating text, what is written down. Therefore, what we have after the Quran is that we have the text. We don't need any new text. But another struggle continues. Because in the past we had two problems. One was the text was disappearing. The other problem was misinterpretation. Tahrif is sometimes linguistic, it's sometimes semantic, ma'nabi. The second is continuing misinterpretation and misunderstanding of the Quran. So, we don't need any new revelation to come because Allah has given us whatever we need to understand and know. But now we have to make sure that we understand it properly. And therefore, Allah keeps providing humanity with teachers of the Quran who don't make mistakes. And these are imams. But even this, Allah has a plan that after some time, when they teach us what we need to be taught in words and in action over 250 years almost, from the death of the Prophet, demise of the Prophet, till birth of Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farjahu Sharif is 250 years. So Allah had the plan that even this should not continue forever. I give you teachers to train you over 250 years. After that, then scholars would continue the job. So we have to be economical in sending wahy and in having infallible teachers among people so that people learn how to rely on their understanding and stand on their feet. So, even in the time of Ghaiba, you see there are two phases. When occultation started, first there were 4 deputies, one after the other, who were appointed by Imam. After that, even that stopped. And now you have to find out, based on the qualifications, who is the one who continues the job. So in the book Lessons on Islamic Belief System, we describe this plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How everything is wisely planned, that gradually we would learn how to benefit from what Allah has already given us. And we would be tested by our commitment and by using, whether we are using proper methodology or not. So, Khatmun Nubuwwah is not a change in Allah's plan, it's actually completion of one stage of the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and going to the next stage. The last issue is successorship to the Prophet, because this book is going to address aqaid which are common for all Muslims, Sunni and Shia. So we decided not to go into the discussion of successorship in this book. So in this volume, we only mention 2 opinions among Muslims. We have another book on Imam, a separate book on Imam. So here we say what is the Sunni understanding of successorship and what is the Shia understanding of successorship. According to our Sunni brothers, successorship could be by appointment of the Prophet, but they say the Prophet didn't appoint anyone, so it was ijma or consensus of Muslims that they chose the first caliph. Of course, then the first caliph appointed the second caliph. There was no consensus. And the second caliph appointed a council. So the council of 6 people were supposed to. So if there was any consensus, was for the 4th caliph, that all Muslims pressurized Amir al-Mu'minin to become the caliph. So the idea of our Sunni brothers is that successorship of the Prophet was not decided by God or Prophet, it was the community who decided. But Shia believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose who would be the successor, because successorship of the Prophet is also a divine position, and Rasulullah declared this on many different occasions. Ghadir was only one of the occasions, not the only one. He, on different occasions, introduced who would be his successor. And these are two different opinions about successorship to the Prophet. It has a historical aspect about what happened in the past, but it has different theological, spiritual also dimensions. What is important is today, if we all Muslims agree on following the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, whether they are supposed to be or were supposed to be successors or not, that's something else. But no Muslim should ever have any doubt, and actually theoretically they don't have any doubt, that we should refer to Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam as people who not only were companions of the Prophet, because companions are hujjah for our Sunni brothers, but they were closest people to the Prophet, and we have lots of hadiths about their merits and knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to understand His final message in a very clear and consistent and authentic way, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.
Sheikh, jazakallah. Namaz is at 8.